Well, it's been a big year for New Zealand golf, not only with many of our professionals performing on many different world tours, but the amateur scene as well, with both the men's and women's World Cups later this year. Now, something of a precursor to these events has been the naming of the National Academy squads. Well, they haven't been named yet, but they're about to be, because we're joined in the studio by New Zealand Golf Executive for Dean Murphy. Dean, it's great to have you with you. Tell us the importance, first of all, of the naming of these squads before I get you to read out the names.
Well, I think it's significant for all the players involved. These people have been striving very hard with their golf games and are now reaching that level where they're recognised nationally as having the potential, to be superstars of the game. So this is really significant for them, and it signals for us, the players we'd like to invest in for the future. An
important stepping stone. Well, you do have the names in front of us, so read them out for us, starting with the men's squad, which is in two tiers. First of all, the Tier 1 names, which is, I guess, the important five.
Yeah, we're delighted to announce in the Tier 1, Josh Munn from Manawatu, Tai Ko from Manukau, Vaughan McCall from the Gore Golf Club, Luke Toomey from Riverside, Blair Royden from Takaka Golf Club. And in the Tier 2 category, Caden Niho from the Whangarei Golf Club, Denzel Edelmeyer from Hamilton Golf Club, Nick Coxon from Riverside, and Ryan Chisnell from Green Acres. The Women's National Academy again is made up of two tiers, and in Tier 1 it's Julianne Alvarez from Manor Park, Munchin Key from Titirangi, and in the Tier 2 category it's Chantal Cassidy from the Cambridge Golf Club, Winyang Key from the Pakuranga Golf Club, and Hannah Seifert from the Riverside Golf Club.
I guess it's fair to say, Dean, that if you're not in those Tier 1 squads, it's highly unlikely, particularly as far as the men are concerned anyway, that you could make the Eisenhower team.
Well, I think these squads represent the players that are on the national radar, either those that have been performing for some time at that level or those we think are going to be there in the future. And it's not impossible for a player outside of that group to come through and be in the frame for the World Amateur Team Champs, but it's unlikely. These are the players that we see the most potential in.
So you've got five players there chasing three spots, essentially, haven't you, in the Eisenhower?
Yeah, it is, and very, very tight. I think there's a couple of players who have been at that level for some time that can consider themselves, reasonably certain to play there, but there's a lot of competition for perhaps places 2 and 3. So good group of young players and a lot of potential.
And Dean, obviously a slightly sort of downsized in numbers wise. What's your sort of strategy moving forward with that?
Well, I think that the key strategy is we'd like more support to go into fewer players. So we recognise that down here at this end of the world, we need to be very targeted in our approach and use our investment as wise as we possibly can. These players we think are the best ones to invest in, and I think it also reflects coming closer with our district associations. We're empowering those folk to spend more time on the next group of players while we concentrate our resources on fewer players at the top and put more investment into that fewer group.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, we've got you here, Dean. Let's talk about a couple of other issues. Lydia Cove been very much in the news for the last week. This decision that was made basically for her to turn back or reverse the grant from Sport New Zealand. Was that a decision made by New Zealand Golf, or was this Lydia's decision on her own, basically?
I think we made it together, and it has been unfortunate, this news over the last few weeks, and the decision we reached was that there was a whole lot of publicity around this that was really, a lot of it was ill-informed and inaccurate, and basically Lydia just wants to focus on golf, and we're really supportive of her golf development. We want to see her performing on the world stage in those major championships and those big LPGA events, and while there still is a bit of a funding gap for Lydia, there still is a bit of a gap there. We just thought it was the best move for everyone to move ahead without that funding and just concentrate on the golf development, which is where we are.
Yeah, some would say that it's a sensible decision because she's got off to a far better start than most rookie pros do in their first year. But the fact remains here, Dean, we've got a situation now where Lydia is not going to receive any funding from Sport New Zealand, yet there are other high-profile sports people in New Zealand who possibly are earning just as much, if not more than Lydia, who will be receiving funding from Sport New Zealand. Is that fair? Fair on Lydia? Fair on golf?
No, I don't think so. And, it's up to those other sports and the public to debate the merits of that funding. We're going to be focused on what Lydia's doing. And I think, the decision we've gone with is in her best interest and our best interest, and we just need to move ahead in that way. I think High Performance Sport New Zealand do a really good job with their investment, but the, means testing athletes or figuring out how much they earn on the course and off the course is a space that they'll probably move into. There's been a lot of talk about it, a lot of debate about it, and we've got to remember Lydia's just 17 years old. She's had to relocate to America. Her costs are in the hundreds of thousands this year just to be out on tour. So there's a lot of stuff that isn't reported in the media, but Lydia's had a fantastic start to her career, and when we made this application back in 2012, we probably couldn't have imagined that she'd be where she is now so quickly. So she's done wonderfully well and is determined to keep doing well, and she's got our full support.
So the decision to apply for the grant in the first place, it was a prudent and responsible thing for New Zealand Golf to do, wasn't it? Because if you look at the history of New Zealand golfers in their first year, they struggle financially, don't they? Men and women. Yeah,
and this is the thing we often get criticised for, is that, hey, when someone turns professional, you kind of wave goodbye to them and wish them well, and they really struggle financially to get to a sustainable level. And earning enough money not only to survive and live, but to invest in your development and invest in playing tournaments and to keep yourself out on the road. It's expensive business, and there's so many of our young professionals, male and female, going through that battle right now. And Lydia's probably got a lot more advanced, a lot quicker than we thought. But the idea of bridging her for the first couple of years to make sure she was comfortable and sustainable out on tour was where we were heading.
Well, Marcus, you know only too well how tough it is in your first year as a pro, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's one of those things where we've got to definitely protect that relationship with Lydia. Being the Olympics, being the nationalism and stuff that surrounds that whole, because she's turning into an empire. And I think that one of the things that you've got to remember too, as well as a golfer, is that you want to have the support of your home country, and I think that we've got to be a little bit careful, especially with the tabloid media and a couple of things that are going around. We want to keep her on our side, and I was really sort of, I just think that a couple of things that have happened to her in the last 6 months or so with the coaching scenario and now this is a bit of a shame. And but she's letting the clubs.
She deals with it well, doesn't she?
She deals with it fantastically, and she's letting the clubs do the talking, and that's what where you want to be.
Yeah. And one other thing, just before we let you go, Dean, I understand you've been talking to Danny Lee as well. Is Danny Lee interested in representing New Zealand at the Olympics in Rio?
Yeah, he is. A couple of our guys have spent some time with him in the last month in his coaching and management team, and he's really passionate about New Zealand, still has really close connections here, his family here, he visits here often when his schedule dictates that he can have some time to do so, but he's really keen on the Olympics, and he's probably one of 4 or 5 guys in particular that are in that frame to be the top 2 ranked at that particular time, so he's very much got his mind on that, and he's very keen to have that New Zealand connection and represent the country he loves, and he'd dearly like to play the New Zealand Open here when his schedule permits, and hopefully that'll happen in the next year or two, but for now he's doing what he can on the PGA Tour and having some good results and climbing up that money list, so good luck to him.
So if he does succeed in securing his card this year, do you think there's a good chance he could play in the next New Zealand Open here?
I think there's a chance. Securing the card's the first thing, and all of these players always say that my first thing is to secure the card, and then I'll see what my schedule allows. The reality is to miss a couple or 3 PGA Tour events, coming down to New Zealand, preparing, playing, and then leaving, that's a big ask. And with everything being front-loaded a bit more in the PGA Tour season, it's difficult. But locking it away and getting a world ranking that would dictate, a card is much more of a surety, is where he needs to be. So that dialogue's ongoing, and he's a great guy and a great connection with New Zealand golf, and we're looking forward to that.
Absolutely. We'd love to see him back here playing in the New Zealand Open. Thank you, Dean. Appreciate your time and thank you for those explanations. And let me just say, I think New Zealand Golf have handled this whole business with Lydia Ko exceptionally well. And even though she's no longer an amateur, it's good that you're still involved with her career at this stage. And we wish her and the team well also for the Eisenhower and the Espirito Santo coming up later in the year. Marcus, a word on those squads that were announced by Dean Murphy from New Zealand Golf earlier in the show. So let's have a look at that squad of the men, the Tier 1 5, contesting for 3 spots. Josh Munn and Ty Ko would appear to be our leading 2 amateurs at the moment, so you'd imagine they'll be in. And then I guess it's a contest from the other 3 for that 3rd spot.
Yeah, look, Vaughan McCall's been a solid player. He's been there before. Luke Toomey's, he's had some really hot rounds and had some great results as well in the last 6 months, a year. I played with him and was very impressed with him when I played with him a couple of years, and he's really grown since then. And then, what you've got to look at, you've got Blair Reardon as well. So, it depends on what the selectors are thinking, whether they've got the anchors there, and then they get the guy that's going to be the hot guy coming in and really sort of can get them up dance them up the leaderboard, or whether they just want solid players, depending on what the golf course is like, whether, what suits their eyes for the player that they want. Yeah.
It's something similar, isn't it? The women's squad as well, where only 2 have been named in Tier 1, Julian Alvarez and Munchin Kay. So the race is on for that 3rd spot. Who's got the inside running, do you think?
Well, Chantal Cassidy's at the moment's got form. She's just won the New Zealand Amateurs down in Nelson, so that was a good thing for her this year. Again, it's the same sort of thing. You've got to look at what their personalities are like, how they create or what they create in the big events, how they handle themselves. I think it'll be interesting, and I think we've got, with the players mentioned, I think we've got a good chance to have a really good finish.